Am I the asshole for telling my dad his favorite Christmas memory is one of my least favorite? I need to hear from others on this. When I 21 female was 8, my mom died. 2 years later he was married again. That first Christmas after he remarried, I asked my dad if we could spend a few hours Christmas Eve at the lake we used to go to every year with my mom, just the two of us. He said sure, but then brought his wife and her 2 kids along and we spent it together. I was so upset and mad, and it ruined the intention of going. To have one last moment where I felt like it was just the 3 of us, not really, but it brought a closeness when we went there, just the 2 of us, and I wanted it one last time. I always made it known it wasn't what I wanted, and my dad knew I was mad. But he always talked about how that was one of his favorite Christmas memories because it brought back our first family Christmas. I always wondered if he was talking like that to try and convince me that I felt the same way, because he always ignored my feelings on it. Anyway, I was talking to him for a little while yesterday and he brought up the memory again, and I asked him to stop. He told me he didn't know what I meant, and I told him the memory might have been his favorite Christmas memory, but I hated it and I did not look back fondly on it. He asked me how I could hate the memory of the first Christmas we had as a family with his wife and her kids. I told him because I had wanted one last Christmas memory of just the 2 of us. I said even an hour would have been better, but he ruined it by including them. He said he thought I understood why they were included, and I said no, he just didn't want to accept that I was mad about it. He told me it was important to cement family bonds, and I told him if I could I would gladly forget that memory. He got mad and told me I didn't need to try and shame him for loving that memory. I told him I just wanted him to stop bringing it up to me. He's demanding an apology, and he told me I am selfish for saying a memory was ruined because we included our family. I told him he would never understand, and I hung up on him. He messaged me after and told me he still wants the apology and for me to get over myself. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole, he's not listening to you. He understands your feelings, but doesn't want to deal with the possibility that he fucked up. He actually owes you an apology.
Not the asshole. Mom here of a blended family. I made the mistake of doing something similar. I thought it would bring my kiddos joy to be included, and it didn't. At all. They were very upset. I didn't know how upset until years later. Eventually they told me, and I apologized for hurting them. His intent wasn't to hurt you, but that was the result. It took courage to tell him your perspective, and whether or not he sees it is perfectly okay to tell him that something he brings up repeatedly is painful to you. That's a healthy boundary you set. He should value how his actions and continued actions make you feel.
Not the asshole. He didn't care about your feelings, only about his. He, as your father, had the duty to protect you and to try to understand you. These were really difficult times to you, and he didn't care. He preferred to bring the new family instead of respecting your wishes, and had quality time with her daughter. You have nothing to apologize. You ask him to stop bringing this memories to you, and he didn't want. Then, you explained to him why you don't like it, and he got mad instead of trying to understand your feelings. He is the one with the problem here and the one who should apologize to you. You were a kid making a really difficult transition in your life, but he didn't care about it.
Not the asshole. It was really brave of you to be so candid with your father about how that trip made you feel. That's not an easy thing to do. As a grieving child undergoing a lot of change, you asked for one special moment, which he agreed to, and then did the opposite of what you asked. That must have felt so awful, like a betrayal. Your dad is the one who was selfish that night, and deep down he knows it. Much easier to make you the bad guy than engage with any sense of shame. Don't be afraid, turn it around and tell him he is the one who needs to apologize to you. And then accept that you may never get that apology and move on.
Not the asshole. Your father is incredibly self-centered. All he had to do was not talk to you about it. But he did so, repeatedly, for years, despite your protest. It was my favorite day ever, even though you were miserable the entire day. I loved your Susie's wedding, even though she cheated on you with your brother the groom for 5 years. I loved the time we spent in the French Alps, even though we went because they offered specialized cancer treatment for you. He can love that memory all he wants, but he's romanticizing a moment where someone else suffered. It's tactless and in bad taste at best. Don't you dare apologize for having feelings.
Not the asshole. No one gets to dictate how you feel about something, and if it is unpleasant for you to remember, he should not bring it up. Sounds like putting himself over your feelings is a pattern for him. I am sorry you have to deal with that hurt. Merry Christmas.
Not the asshole. You were a child grieving your mother and he stomped all over your feelings. Then he's continued to gaslight you in an attempt to say, "No, it was actually a good memory. You don't know what you're talking about." You didn't say, "You also have to decide this is a bad memory," because that would be exactly what he did. You said, "We have a disagreement about this and I would like to stop talking about it." He cares more about being right than he cares about your feelings.
Not the asshole. I am so sorry your dad is dumb as rocks and lacks basic empathy and comprehension skills.
Esh. Both of you disregard each other's feelings, are selfish and keep grudges over decades.
Not the asshole at all. Your dad is selfish and cruel.
You were 10 years old, and your whole life was about to change, for the second time. I get what your dad wanted, but the fact that he has refused to acknowledge how upset you were by the moment, makes him an asshole. Unfortunately, you're probably right. He will never understand, because he doesn't want to understand. Don't apologize. You're allowed to dislike a memory that he likes, and he's the one who just needs to get over himself. Not the asshole.
I'm not going to apologize for my feelings. I did not tell you you couldn't treasure the memory, I simply asked that you stop bringing it up to me. You may feel how you feel, all I ask is that you also respect how I feel. Either way, I'm not apologizing because I've done nothing wrong. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole, but it's a soft the asshole for your dad. It sounds like he was doing what he thought was best and didn't realize how much that time alone meant to you. He sounds very much like a parent who doesn't want their child to feel pain, and it is hard for him to understand from your perspective.
Not the asshole. We all make mistakes and unintentionally hurt each other. But I fail to see how your father's reaction to his original mistake would work. Get angry at you and so force you to change your feelings about that memory? Good luck, Dad.
Nah. You have every right to ask him to stop bringing it up and to tell him it's not a good memory for you. However, even after all this, it can still be a good memory for him, and I get the feeling you want him to admit it was bad too. Well, it wasn't for him. Stand firm on your feelings but accept his.
Not the asshole. That was his first Christmas with his new family, not yours. You may have warmed up to your step-family, you may not have, but at that point at the very least they weren't family to you, and that's perfectly okay. What's not okay is him trying to force that on you. He tainted what sounded like a lovely family, you, your mom, your dad, memory with a family, he tried to force on you. Not the asshole, your dad is.
No assholes here, he was hurting just as much as you, if not more. People grieve differently, you wanted to be alone with him but he wanted to feel surrounded by love. There is nothing wrong with either of those. I know it hurts because it's not what you wanted, but I would just apologize to him because that's your dad. You could explain how you love him and you're happy he found a new family that makes him so happy, etc. You could still politely ask that he not bring it up around you as it is a sensitive topic.
Your dad sounds incredibly emotionally selfish. That must have been difficult to deal with as a stepchild. Not the asshole, and your dad is being defensive because deep down he knows he fucked up.
Not the asshole. He totally missed the point. Cementing bonds is one thing, but having one final time to do something is also something that is important. If he knows you don't like it and he always keeps bringing it up, he is totally at fault and you him no apology at all. Not the asshole. He didn't respect your feelings then and he doesn't respect them now. Do not apologize to him for speaking your mind and staying true to yourself. He wants an apology because you made him feel bad, like he should do.
After my father remarried to my mom's best friend, when I was around 10, I never, ever had another moment with him without her. Every Father's Day until I moved out, I asked if we could have dinner just the two of us, or even just spend an hour together before she arrived. Never happened. He died last year. I am 43. I loved my dad, but I am really angry about this. I think I always will be. Not the asshole. Edited, a word.
Not the asshole. He owes you an apology, not you.
Sure, Dad. As soon as you apologize for putting what you wanted over what an 8-year-old needed, and acknowledge that this many years later you're still discounting my feelings, I'll apologize. I'm sorry my feelings upset you. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, just not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Man, my family did this to me when my dad passed. Oh, he always spent time with you and took you to all your activities. Except he took care of me because he was unable to work. He had a short temper and all the activities, he took me to were ones that were chosen for me. I wanted to play guitar, he chose piano. Like, I loved him, but my memories of these moments are not at all the same as how my relatives viewed them.
Unfortunately, he is not hearing you. He sees his side. And doesn't see yours. Why should you apologize? For what exactly? He has his experience of an event. And you have yours? Should he apologize? Should you? No.
Not the asshole. It sounds like his idea of cementing the family only ostracized you and your feelings. You expressed this to him and he knew your feeling at the time as well. You then asked that he stopped bringing up a memory of pain for you, and he only became mad at you for ruining his favorite memory. That's not okay. It may be his favorite memory, but it's filled with your pain. He needs to understand that. He chose to ignore your feelings then and he's ignoring them now. You do not need to apologize. But I would talk to him about this, and should he continue to ignore, belittle your feelings, then you really should reevaluate your relationship with him. He's definitely an awe.
Not the asshole. It's heartbreaking that he was so obsessed with his new family that he couldn't be bothered to give you the chance to say goodbye to Christmases as you knew them.
Not the asshole. I would text him back that you never want to hear about it again and that he will never get an apology. He needs to get the message that it is not okay to talk about it with you. He can keep his happy memory to himself out of respect for you.
NTA. My dad remarried very quickly and wanted me to bond with them right away. What I eventually told him was that's his new wife, but she'll never be my new mom. Sure, a family member, but never a mom, and that I would always have more love in my heart for my true mom than her. He got mad and honestly didn't understand. But a spouse can be replaced, you can't ever truly replace a parent. So although this was his first memory with his new family, to you it will be the end of your old family. I'm not sure if he'll ever get that, but it might help to explain it that way.
That's something I always, even now disagree about with my dad. Downvote me if you want, but I don't consider my dad's new wife and her kids' family. They are not my family at all. They are my dad's family. So when he says stuff like this, why would you hate being with family? It pisses me off so much. To me, he's being the selfish one, so not the asshole.
NTA. Your father doesn't care about your feelings or just isn't listening. Possibly both.
Not the asshole. Don't apologize for having feelings. I understand why that would upset you, and honestly it would really upset me too.
So many parents ignore that their kids need one-on-one time when they get remarried and involve the steps in everything. That's a sure way to generate resentment. He was selfish then and he's being selfish now. Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Your dad is being selfish and obtuse, and he is discounting your feelings about that Christmas. You do not owe him an apology. He owes you one for not considering what you asked and included them when you only asked for a few moments of just you and him. I am completely baffled at the way most of these posts go concerning step families. It is almost as if the parents do not want the kids to have any memories of anything other than the blended family. That is just effing ridiculous and does so much damage and hurt to the child. I am truly sorry that your dad didn't take your feelings into consideration during all of these years.
Might be unpopular, but you are the asshole. It wasn't your last Christmas as just the two of you, it was your first Christmas with new family. It would not have been reasonable for him to leave his new wife and new step-kids alone for a few hours on their first Christmas Eve together.
Not the asshole. He's asking you not to shame him, and then turns around and actually does it to you. His defenses are getting in the way of listening to you and hearing you. Not the asshole. Your dad's desire to blend his new family had the effect of chopping it up into itty-bitty pieces. I would not blame you if you decided to block them all. Your dad was tone deaf in not understanding what you really needed. Your stepmother was either clueless about what was going on at the time or trying to force herself on you. Have you ever talked to your stepmom about that day to find out what she knew? It would be interesting to find out if she really knew what was going on at the time. Your dad's self-centeredness may well have sabotaged his end game of a blended family. It would have been easy for you to develop a deep resentment against your stepmom, her kids and your dad.
NTA. Your father is being really rude. Sounds like he's getting incredibly defensive because he just can't admit he's wrong and effed up. Stand your ground. You have nothing to apologize for. All you want is for him to stop talking about it. If he can't do that much, then yeah, don't continue that conversation.
Not the asshole. Sounds like something my parents would do. Dictate how I should feel about things. For a long time I wanted to feel the way they said I should feel. But it just made me more miserable. I didn't want to upset them, but I had to, if I wanted to save some amount of sanity for myself. Good on you for standing up for yourself. Must have been tough. But some boundaries are important. You did the right thing. Sometimes people just don't understand your point of view because they're stubbornly holding on to their own perspective. I hope he sees things your way with time.
Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. He can ask an apology of you, but you deserve one as well. The fact that he refuses to acknowledge or see if that way is the concerning bit.
Not the asshole. Your dad ignored your wishes and then ignored your feelings. That is rude and wrong of him. Your request was perfectly valid and your feelings about it being ignored is valid. He should have allowed you one last Christmas memory as a unit, which probably would have helped with closure and moving on to be part of a new family dynamic. Sorry he was too excited with his new wife and kids to realize. Not the asshole. I'm sorry that your dad was and still is incapable of putting himself in the shoes of a 10-year-old who is trying to cope with some major changes in life, that also took place in a relatively short period of time. I don't know how upset you got yesterday. If you cursed or screamed, that might be something you would want to apologize for. Might not have to, but not for explaining your feelings. Don't hold your breath for an apology to you though. Your dad may never understand or may not be able to acknowledge he should have done better by you. He was probably thrilled to be a family again and feels you should be grateful he got you surrounded with family again so quickly, and might have been afraid his new wife would not be understanding.
Not the asshole. Never, ever apologize for how you feel. No one gets to dictate your feelings, and even worse, he's trying to dictate your memories.
0/5 assholes. You're not under yourself, and as for your dad, he doesn't understand. He was more focused on cementing your blended family than having just you and him as a family going to the lake as you used to do with him and your mom. Bringing the wife and your stepsiblings just tarnished the meaning of coming for you and made it feel like he wanted to erase memories of your mom so you could see your stepmom as your new mom. If anyone should apologize, it's him for dismissing your feelings these last 11 years.
Not the asshole. I hate this whole idea that you need to get over yourself and apologize when your dad could just as easily get over himself and stop demanding an apology.
Not the asshole. This reminds me of the first Father's Day after my dad died and my mom forced me to say Happy Father's Day to my stepdad. I haven't forgotten and I will never forgive her for it. I just wanted to be alone or to visit the cemetery. We didn't do that until the next year. Your dad owes you an apology, but it won't happen because he doesn't think he's wrong. I'm so sorry to hear about this op.
Not the asshole. And he still said you owe him an apology. This is so insensitive.